Hey, comic book collectors, do you want to protect what you collect? Do you hate when your comic books slide around in your short box, or you need to turn them sideways just so they don't bend or fall over? Well, look no further than Sidekick Supplies. Their product fits firmly inside your comic box, so you don't need to worry. And not only is their product made in the USA, but also ships free directly to your doorstep. Check out our sponsor, Sidekick Supplies, at sidekicksupplies.com and use the code ComicCon15 for 15% off your purchase. Believe me, you'll be ordering more than one.
Welcome to the one and only Comic-Con Podcast, your podcast for comic book news, reviews, and comic community drama, with your hosts, Nemesis Prime and Milton the Manimal. Are you listening?
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Comic-Con Podcast, Season 4 still? Episode 12. We're back as always. I was gone last week. I know Paperweight Comics or Paperweight Collects stood in for me, which was awesome. It was a great episode. But back to the OGs, the original Deuce, Justin and the Manimal. What's up, dude?
I'm not a Deuce, but I'll take the duo.
The original Deuce, dude.
The original Deuce, yes, the OG Deuce.
Two,
man, I gotta tell you, having Paperweight on last week, he's probably one of our newer, again, he's our newer guest. He's only been on this show twice already this year.
Yeah.
And I'm really feeling him as a Canadian, man. I think he's really, he could be added as like a third person. I really like just, what it is really, and because as we all know, we've been just really grooming all the Canadians to jump on this show on a weekly, on a bi-weekly or tri-weekly basis every time. But I just feel like it's so great to have Greg on here because he's so new to the community and he is not jaded. And, the conversations that we were having about exactly like he said, he brought up the, not liking everything. And, everything, if something's trash, it's trash. If something's good, you talk about it. But he's just such a genuine person to have on. And I like that about having someone who's, and again, not an influencer, realistically, not a YouTuber. Like he just.
Right.
Cool.
No, I enjoyed it as well because, and like, look, I mean, you and I have been in the community in the game for a while now. And I mean, being honest, we can get a little jaded. Right. And so we have our own predispositions on things we like or dislike and the stances we take. And I, for the most part, I think most of our listeners could probably, if you gave them a topic, they would probably be able to guess which way we're going to fall on it. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I like the fact that he was like agreeing with us because sometimes I do wonder. I'm like, oh man, am I upset about this because I'm a little jaded because of things that have happened in the community and like the way I feel like it's going. And it was nice to hear him kind of reiterate some of the topics we talked about past week about people, just being yes men or like super positive just to grow their brand or whatever. So it's nice to see, like you said, like a newer person in the community kind of see through that. It gives me hope that maybe not everyone out there are lemmings that just like follow garbage, right? So, but yeah, so thanks a lot for stepping in and taking over and helping out, which hopefully I should be able to, there should be no change. I should be able to record next week as well, but I'm currently in the middle of moving from Texas to Virginia. There's no furniture in my house. That's why I might be a little echoey. If you see any clips, that's why my audio and video are not awesome. It's because I just straight up laptop right here. So, yeah, man, hitting the road on Thursday next week. Yeah, hit the road Thursday next week for
around the corner, man. It's a
cross
wild
country journey. Yeah, dude.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited for you to get here on the East Coast. We've been talking.
Yeah.
There's a lot of positives, obviously. Not only just comic book related, but again, like we could hang out and go to like a show, like a
Right.
music show, or we could just meet up in between, whether it's Baltimore or DC. It's
dude.
A lot
really
of fun things to do.
Exploring. So
yeah.
Well, let's get into it. Let's start with some articles. Let's do some articles today. Let's reverse the orders that we usually go in here and kind of keep the listeners guessing. So I'll start off with one I got. This comes over from Bleeding Cool, and this kind of talks about some things that we've talked about in the past. Mark Millar stories, the big game, and stuff like that. So this article starts: Nemesis Rogues Gallery sequel to Big Game comes out in July. So as we know, Mark Millar's brand has kind of jumped around. They go on to say, this is kind of funny. They've Nemesis has had almost as many publishers as Britain has had prime ministers of late. So Marvel, Image, and now Dark Horse. So we know that Millar World has left Image Comics for Dark Horse Comics, and they've lined up the first of 5 new books with Nemesis Rogue Gallery. So this is supposed to kind of be a sequel to what happened, the events from Big Game, and they go on to describe it as Nemesis claws himself back from the brink. So if you guys aren't familiar with who Nemesis is in the Millar world, he's basically like the most awesome assassin bad guy. Like he's unbeatable. He's just like really badass and cool. But he does get beat in Big Game, spoiler alert. But some stuff coming with this should be pretty cool. So the franchise co-created with artist Steve McNiven, and both he and Jorge Jimenez set a pretty damn high bar, but Valerio clears it with a double flip. The art on this book is insane. He goes on to say he thinks the superstar is born. I can't wait for you all to see it and look forward to a long, fruitful relationship with the company. Check our socials for lots of little previews in the weeks ahead. Yeah, dude, Millar has been very vocal of late, and I think we talked about it. I don't know if this was last year. His comments about, Marvel and DC needing to up their prices, right? Or their payment to get writers and everything. And that's the problem. And honestly, kind of, neither one of us really goes as far to say that we are in the know of how the industry works in that aspect, right? Like we have some knowledge, but I think also you can read between the lines, right? With like all these branching offs, like the Onion, or not the Onion, Tinian's,
Tiny Onion.
Tiny Onion, yeah. And then the, I'm having a mind blank. The Distillery, all these different, and then now you have the Rook Exodus stuff with Image, like that whole world. Like, I think you're seeing these big time writers kind of jump ship from Marvel and DC, right? Like they're not really wanting to go back. And I'm sure pay has something to do with it. Of course it does, right? I mean, it's a job.
Pay is one thing. I think another thing is the whole owning your character, right?
Right.
And Nemesis is a great character. He's someone who has been asked for a lot, right? And we don't really get to, Kick-Ass has had multiple series. You have, anything, the Hit Girl stuff, Kick-Ass, and you have, Jupiter's Legacy. They've had sequels, but Nemesis has only really ever had that first run. I think it was like 5 or 6 issues. And then, yes, we saw him in Big Game. And now, now we're actually going to get a sequel to that. It's cool that it's spanning out of the whole, Big Game stuff that we saw last year, which was awesome if anybody got a chance to read it. And I think that's going to be a good positive for any of these characters that he did create to see, what's the future of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So that comes out July 24th, 2024. I'm actually kind of surprised because it did kind of seem like Big Game was sort of like kind of wrapping up the Millarverse, if you will, Millar world. And I actually kind of thought now that he's in Dark Horse, he was going to be like, okay, clean slate, let's start some new stuff and go again. But maybe we'll see some returning characters from like other Millar world properties, which should, they're great characters. Like I'm a massive Magic Order fan. I've read all the Magic Order stuff, so I'd love some more of that as well. But anyway, let's move on to another article, Mr. Prime.
Well, here we go again with some symbiote stuff. It's a weekly thing and it's a weekly occurrence here. But you know what? Marvel just likes to bleed it out and bleed your money dry. So over at bleedingcool.com, Venomverse Reborn from Marvel in July. Venomverse was a big hit for Marvel, courtesy of Kid Venom in June, which I don't really think it was. But
yeah, right. I saw that too, and I was like, what do you mean courtesy of Kid Venom? No, it wasn't, dude.
It's, but whatever. We'll get into it. In June, Marvel will be publishing a return with the Venomverse Reborn. Marvel announces the new stories being written by Al Ewing and others in June. So this series will have a span of Venoms, including ones from Marvel's Spider-Man 2 video game. You can expect a mix of cosmic and terrestrial tales with first appearances and epic storylines. So they say, courtesy of Kid Venom. You know what, Marvel, and I think someone posted this on or commented on one of my posts that they said this, that Marvel's very quick to introduce new characters and just completely just throw them away and you'll never see them again. Yeah. And obviously the big characters are always ending up being symbiote or spider related. So in the article, it goes into something for every fan. For each jam-packed issue will be framed a pivotal new Venom story by current writer Al Ewing. doesn't miss a beat by a current Venom mastermind architect team up with many artists to lay out the groundwork for the next symbiote epic. The first 2 issues will be oozing with first appearances, including Venom, like I said, from the Insomniac's video game, Spider-Man 2, a Viking Venom, and more. But it does look like Benjamin Percy's jumping on here as well in the Venomverse Reborn, which is pretty awesome because he actually just got announced that he will be at Terrificon.
Yeah. So, and like, we've talked about Benjamin Percy a lot and even Al Ewing. Like, these are all great writers. But so I look at something like this and all like symbiote bullshit aside, and obviously my disdain for all of that nonsense. But I look at this and it's such BS to me when they're like, oh, these are pivotal issues, right? But each issue is written by 3 different writers. So it's either going to be like stories, small stories within, so almost like an anthology type series. It's a 1 through 4. It's a 4-issue series with random Venoms pulled in from the multiverse. Like, what could be pivotal about this? Like, this seems like a cash grab to me. And I'm sure, like you said, like Ben Percy, Al Ewing, all being pulled in, they're going to write like 4 pages each, and that's it. It's going to be like almost nothing. So,
yeah. The first one kind of goes into they talk about it, obviously dragging in Insomniac's Venom from Spider-Man 2 across the Venomverse to take on Null. So is the final story going to be about Null, or is it just like they've done, what is it, like the Venomverse Returns, Edge of the Venomverse, just like they do all the spider stuff? And yeah, it's pretty much a cash grab, I think, just to, who they can create, what retailers will do first exclusive variants for this. That's all it really ever is, right?
Yes.
I feel like that's their end game, is they just want to get more money out of retailers so they can do exclusive variants for books that are going to be worthless in 6 months that you'll see on Whatnot selling for $5 instead of what they originally came out for, like 25 or 30.
You'll see them in the dollar bin next to all the Ninja Funk.
Yeah.
Eventually one day. So anyway, well, those are a couple articles we have over there from Bleeding Cool. Some good stuff there. But moving on, we have a couple community questions, right?
Yeah, we do. So speaking of, again, we spoke about Paperweight earlier in the show. Let's kind of get into, he actually sent us questions. He's like, how do you guys read comics? Do you look at the photos within the panels and then read, or do you read and then go back over each panel? Maybe a dumb question, but always been curious.
I find myself oftentimes, okay, so I guess I'll go first. I don't look at the art that much, and I do find myself having to like kind of concentrate to focus on the art, which, because I'm, like we said before, like the writing is what's important to me. So I will like read the words, and then I subconsciously kind of visualize or see the picture, but then I move on really quickly. Sometimes I'll go back and it'll register like, dude, I barely even looked at that picture. I barely even looked at that panel. I just read the words and moved on. So I do have that problem. I need to sometimes be a little bit more intent about, like actually looking at the art. So to answer the question, I think honestly, I just kind of read and then move on, and I register the picture. So you?
I think I do both. I think I read and kind of just move past it, especially depending on like the story, right? Like if you feel like the interaction between the characters is not pivotal to the art, so you're just like, oh, whatever. But then there's times where I'm just going through the panels and missing the story, on like a page, just because you're trying to watch it almost like a movie, like an action sequence, and especially like something that's realistically going on. Like if they're jumping from panel to panel, or on like a quarter page, there's like 3 small panels. You're trying to like look at that, like, all right, action, and into the next, and then maybe you'll find out what's kind of going on later. I kind of do both. I think both of them are like the way to go. But good question, because everyone's a little different how they read it.
Right. It's always everyone's different on how their brain registers things, right? So I definitely sometimes I have to go back. I'm like, I didn't look at any of that art, and I'll go back and like look at the pictures, and so
especially if you don't know who the character was, right? If you're like, who are they talking to, or who were they talking to, and you're going back and forth. So I get it. And then we got a second question, and this is actually going to definitely work right into our first topic for the evening, regarding into the comics, the cartoon stuff. So Mike the Beast Benson, if X-Men 87 turns out being an overall success, do you think there's a good chance we get a continuation of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon? It ended on such a huge cliffhanger. Honestly, would rather see that than Spider-Man freshman year.
I saw that. I actually saw that as well prior to, it was like maybe a month ago now, because there's been a lot of hype for X-Men 97, right? And I saw something else. Someone posted that as well. Like, oh man, maybe if this does well, we'll get, a Spider-Man 97 or whatever it is, which would be cool. I mean, it really would be cool. Like the Spider-Man animated is, I mean, my favorite Spider-Man stuff, and I'm not a big Spidey guy. But yeah, I think we talk about it all the time, especially with comics. There is definitely a need for these animated shows, and especially for like the big two in Marvel, right? So Marvel and DC, you have to bring new people into comics. We need a younger generation. And us growing up, we grew up on Spider-Man, Batman the Animated, X-Men. These were the shows, the cartoons that kind of pretty much got us into comics for the most part. I mean, some of us were probably reading and collecting, but the interest were coming from the cartoons for the most part, I think. I think that's probably a strong statement to make on the majority of collectors, very much influenced by those cartoons. And that could be the source for the next generation. I don't think things like What If are going to be what brings new readers into comics, No.
The storylines were just so great. I obviously we're going to get into X-Men 97, but literally, so X-Men 97 came out on Wednesday and I binge watched season 1 of the original X-Men series. I was kind of skimming the episodes, for the most part. I wasn't watching every little bit. And then I got into season 2 and the same thing. And you're just like, this is so pivotal that like at the time, it's just like, this was such a great series. They were doing it directly from the comic books. And I said this about the Batman animated series, that you were literally taking the storyline straight out of what, Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams were doing, the first appearance of all these characters, how these were written into the, comics, and just taking it and putting it into an art form. And the same thing with like Spider-Man animated. They did so many storylines, obviously Return of Sinister Six, you have the Carnage stuff, the Venom stuff. They brought in the Secret Wars thing. And then the way it ended was they did like that Spider Carnage. And you're like, this is the last 2 episodes of like how they're ending it was, with like the clone, with like Spider-Man, like Ben Reilly, and then him meeting like Stan Lee. Like that's really how we're ending this series. Was just very odd. So there is a way to continue that storyline, because there's so much that happened, post those storylines, that you're like, you can definitely get them in and get people to watch them again. Still considering, and you don't need to go into the whole Spider-Verse. You could just take characters that were just never introduced.
Yeah, man. I remember season 2 of X-Men, like when Morph comes back, right, as like a bad guy. I was like floored. I remember as a kid being like, what? He's back. Oh, he's evil now. He works for Sinister. And then the whole like struggle to get him back, and Wolverine trying to get him back. And like, it was a big deal for me because I also didn't like, I was reading the X-Men, and Morph was never a character in the books, like of any substance. I know people like, yeah, he was Changeling back in like I get it. I know about Changeling and that, but like as a mainstay character, he wasn't. He was just a throwaway character in the animated series that they brought back. And so it was cool to see Wolverine kind of interacting with like, that was like his best buddy, because you didn't have Colossus and you didn't have Nightcrawler, who are his comic book best buddies. So, yeah, I loved the X-Men animated. And I guess if we're just moving on into kind of on a review of X-Men 97, like, man, I was excited. I don't think I've been like other people, and even being an X-Men person, I know a lot of people were super, super excited for this cartoon to come out. And I was kind of like, yeah, okay. I guess I'm a little tempered on expectations with Marvel lately, right? And so I was a little nervous about how it was going to come down, but man, it flowed seamlessly. And there were things about it that I just loved. Like I loved Cyclops' depiction. I'm a big Cyclops fan. We had in our group chat, I kind of went off on the Canadians today because they were talking some shit on Cyclops. But that's one of the biggest problems I feel like with X-Men depictions is heavy Wolverine, low Cyclops. And I don't feel like that's a good thing at all. And it was low Wolverine in these first 2 episodes, which I thought was extremely important. Cyclops was awesome. He was a leader. That scene where he falls out of the sky and like his blast like keeps him from, falling to his death was amazing. Everything was great about it. I love the addition of Bishop, so good, and I'm so excited. I want way more Bishop. We didn't get a lot in the first 2 episodes. They toned down the annoying aspect of Jubilee. Like she was actually like enjoyable. I was like, okay, cool. Like I can actually like this Jubilee. I hated Jubilee because of the original comic. And then obviously Magneto kind of stole the show, and Storm. But like, anyway, your thoughts, because I could probably just keep going, but what were your thoughts on it?
All right. So like I said, I watched the first 2 episodes, and then I watched like season 1 of, the original animated series. And I gotta say, and people are gonna hate me on this, but I felt like the first episode was literally just a rehash of the original like Night of the Sentinels. But the flip side is, instead of Jubilee, they're trying to get Sunspot, right?
Right.
That's who it is. And instead of the Sentinels, it's the Friends of Humanity. So it was almost like they tried to play it safe, right? If you kind of look at it that way, they kind of just tried to play this first 2 episodes very safe. Well, I would say the first episode, because it's realistically it's the same thing. The X-Men are trying to save some kid who doesn't want to be a mutant, doesn't understand being a mutant. And then like you get Jubilee, like at the end, she says to him, like, "Oh yeah, I was like that at one point. I didn't want to be here, but I learned to be here," basically. And that's kind of like the same thing that happened in the original series. But other than that, I think the animation's great. The voice acting, again, keeping the majority of the actors and actresses who voiced these characters was great to hear again. The trial of Magneto was cool. And yeah, to me, Magneto definitely steals the show. Like he's like such a bad guy in the original series, reading him in comic books and what we know about Magneto. And then for him to come and he gets to that point where he takes the judges and the one guy, that executioner guy, up into space basically. And like he could just kill them. But he's just like, he has that tear, and he's just like doing this for Charles. It really hits you. It really hits you in the feels.
So I'll rebuttal. I totally understand what you're saying about your point about the being similar, and I'll rebuttal. Here's my thought process on that, because it very much is like kind of what we talked about, right? We need to get new viewers in, but at the same time, we all know how volatile us old fans can be, right? So they also have to like cater to us, it's a very thin line. Let's be honest. Let's be fair. So it's a continuation, right? And so I thought they did a really good job of like, okay, it's a continuation, but you don't need to know the whole past, because you're kind of a big deal. Also, you're starting the X-Men and Xavier's dead. He's gone. So I thought they did a really good job of like, okay.
But is he dead? Like, why put him in the freaking opening theme song? Like,
that
was a little...
I thought so too,
I didn't like that, because again, I actually watched the final episode of the series, the original series, before I watched this, just because I actually need to go back. As I was looking through the episode guide, I was like, I don't remember this episode. I don't remember this. I can see where I probably either stopped watching it or who knows what happened. But like the Shi'ar take him. So he's technically still alive, maybe not in body, but in mind. So
yeah, I mean, he's probably going to be back. It's the X-Men, right?
Yeah, it's like...
But I liked how I thought they threaded the needle really well with like, there was a lot of like expository like information where they kind of like, hey, like for you people who may not know the X-Men so well, like Bishop's powers, right? So like initially he shows up in that first scene with him and Storm, they go at it and he's getting shot with like blasts, and he's not one of the most well-known X-Men, okay, for like non, X-Men fans. And then they don't really talk about it, but it looks cool. And then later they kind of explain it like, oh, you can channel powers or whatever. So I thought they did a really good job of threading the needle of like new content, similar to old content, and also palatable for new viewers who might not be with it. I saw my cousin like last week back in Kansas City, and he was telling me one of his sons is like, hey, he like really is into comics. He really wants more comics. And I was like, yo, perfect. I'm moving. I need to get rid of shit. I will send you a box of comics. And so I packaged all these comics up, and then I told him, I was like, hey, have him watch. This is a perfect time, because he's into Batman and Spider-Man, right? I mean, that's what everyone's kind of into. And I go, have him watch X-Men. It's coming out. This is a good start, and I'll ship him a bunch of X-Men comics as well. So I'm excited to hear what the result is on that. And I thought, like I said, I thought they did a great job of threading the needle of keeping us older fans happy and leaving it a springboard for new fans to come.
Mhm.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, man. I'm excited to see where it goes. No
Well, like,
complaints.
yeah, definitely not really complaints. I just feel like that was the one thing that people may not talk about is that it
Yeah,
was a little bit too safe. They played it too safe on that first
I get
episode,
you.
but a lot of action. I get
Yeah.
it. Like that's what you wanted to. That's what you want to see, and every character got their own screen time for or enough screen time for a
Mhm.
25-30 minute episode, which is great.
Except Beast, maybe.
Yeah,
Could have got some more. But and you know what was really cool? One of the really cool things too about like the addition. I know there was all this drama about Morph, right? Being he's a they them, whatever. He's non-binary. Like, don't care, whatever. But a Morph having Morph as like an addition in the cast is so great because you get to see other characters without actually having to have the
yeah.
other characters, right? So like you saw Colossus, Psylocke, Archangel, Blob. Who else did he turn into?
Lady Death. Or no,
Lady
you.
Deathstrike,
Yep.
yeah. That was really cool. It's cool having him there. It's like, hey, here's a character. You're not going to get that character, but
Yeah.
here he is. So
Like us old people or us old readers or whatever, we know who they were, but like for a new person, they're just like he's changing into all these characters. Like who are these characters?
right, that
You
could
really
be a
don't know.
little,
They don't ever say the names. It's just
but that's fun too, man.
oh no, it's the best. Yeah.
Maybe a new viewers like, hey, that character looked really cool. Who is that? And then they fall down the rabbit hole, man. That's cool. Um, so yeah, dude, I loved it. I'm excited to keep watching. When did that come out? Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah, that
So
came
every
out.
Wednesday, new episode.
Hmm.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So, well, cool. Let's keep plugging along. Let's stay in the Disney Plus theme. We had another trailer drop kind of this week, which is a surprise to me. I didn't know it was coming out. Justin, walk us through it.
Well, we have the Acolyte from the High Republic. So we got our next live action TV series for Star Wars. Going to be in set about 100 years prior to the Phantom Menace, kind of the tail end of the High Republic stuff. So we're going to see some. So far, there's only one confirmed character that we know about. If you've been reading the High Republic stuff, which is Vernestra Rowe, we get to see her as a Jedi Master in the current series. She's kind of a Padawan, if not Jedi Knight. So thoughts on the trailer? Um, did you see that fan made trailer that we just watched this week? Because that's what it looked like. It
No, I don't.
was terrible, bro. I'm sorry.
You didn't like the trailer for this?
I I didn't like it, man. It literally looked like a fan made Star Wars
Oh
movie.
man, I
It
really
really
liked it.
looked bad. I'm and people are like, wow, really? Yeah, I think it looked terrible. I went back and I watched every teaser trailer for all these live action all the live action Star Wars, and this
Mhm.
was the worst one. Like you could tell or you could see that it's very very basic, like super basic for a teaser trailer. And that's fine for, not showing you stuff, but I just felt like it was done by I've seen TikTok and Instagrammers and YouTubers do better movies than this trailer.
Mm.
Um get the parallels of the opening scene with the Jedi Master who's talking about, don't use your eyes. And that's something that Obi-Wan tells Luke, when he's training him. Again, a very diverse cast of characters because that's what the creator wanted. Of course, female led. What's her name? Leslie Headland is going to be the creator of this, and there's not. This is the first. I think this is the. They said this is like the first Star Wars that doesn't have a white male led character. I think that was what was going around.
Which is fine, but it's so annoying that they have to like, hey, we need to not have a white
Yeah,
male led character. Like the fact that you single out that as something you can't have, that's racist. I don't know, just wild, but okay, dude.
yeah. So I'm excited to see it because again, I want to see Jedi. I want to see a Sith, but
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm telling you, it was just really tough to watch. Like it was almost like,
man.
ugh.
Hmm. I really enjoyed it, and I get what you're saying. I don't know. Maybe I also appreciated it because it didn't show anything. Like little less is more these days with these trailers. So I kind of like the ambiguity of the trailer in terms of like it didn't give away a lot of things. I really love the opening scene of man. I'm gonna totally butcher his name. Lee Young high, the guy from Squid Game.
Mhm.
Like, I think it's awesome. I love Squid Game, so seeing him in there as the Jedi, I thought that was really cool. I like the tie-in with Vernestra Rowe, obviously from both of us reading High Republic. Carrie Ann Moss is awesome. I don't know, man. I'm pretty excited for it. I like that we didn't see much. I get what you mean, though. It was kind of a generic type trailer, but I don't want to see more. I want to be surprised.
But you want to see a trailer and you want to be excited for it.
I was
and I'm
pretty
telling
excited.
you,
Yeah, you were.
I know, but it's just for especially me, like I don't know. I went back and I'm telling you, I watched, and you know what it is, and I don't want it to be that because these other trailers and these other shows that have come out have been established characters. But I'm telling you, if you go back and you watch Andor, even Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, if you just watch the teaser trailer, there's not a lot that's shown, but you're just like, wow, this universe is amazing. And if you watch this trailer, you're like, I don't know, man. It's kind of boring. It was kind of boring. Like,
okay. Well, hopefully it'll turn out better.
Oh yeah, I mean, I want it to turn out amazing. It's the current era that they're in for the comics. They're really high on this High Republic stuff, and it's not in the whole Luke Skywalker era, right? It's not the whole Skywalker saga, so they can kind of do what they want because they're they're at least a good 100 years past the what's going on in Marvel, and they're 100 years prior to what happened in Phantom Menace. So it's a good in between. They can create characters, and then eventually you could see them in the comic books.
You think we'll see Yoda?
Of course, yeah, because he's alive. He's 100% alive. I
Yeah.
think and that was another thing. It's like, oh, who's going to cameo? Well, 100% you're going to get
100% have to be
Yoda.
Yoda.
Yeah,
Right,
you have to get Yoda. The Acolyte could be anybody. Most people are kind of hoping that it's Darth Plagueis because that would be the best way to introduce the Sith. Some people are thinking it's Darth Bane. I would love it to be Darth Bane, but I don't think that's changing his canon the way it, where he kind of created the rule of two. So
yeah,
but we'll see.
It's funny. Like, Star Wars always has like this script in terms of like, right, you got a Jedi, you always got some kind of like a smuggler. Like, they got a new guy, Kamir, in this, who's like a former smuggler and trader. It's like there's always the same kind of characters, and like it's almost like any kind of RPG game you play, right? You got your thief, you got your wizards, you got your warrior, and it's always the same like archetypes for these things. But I mean, it works. So, and then they even there's like some kind of like a witches coven, very reminiscent to the oh gosh,
Dathomir.
The Dathomir chicks, yeah. So I don't know, man. I thought it looked pretty cool. I'm excited. What is it? June? Is that when it comes out?
Yeah, June.
Yeah,
I'm
June.
excited to see who Daphne Keane plays.
She said, okay, so actually I see that right here. She is an acolyte. She is a Padawan character. She's playing a character named Jeki Lawn.
Okay.
So she is a Padawan to Master Soul, played by the guy from Squid Game.
I'm wondering if it's the girl that was kind of like the alien race that you see. She's kind of at the end, like right before all the Jedi kind of pull out their lightsaber. Like, I think she's the one who, let's just say, the way the trailer plays out is like she's the one who actually sees the Sith or Acolyte with the red lightsaber.
Yeah, there's a picture of her right here in this. You want me to send it to you?
I think I found it. I found it, I think. She's got the orange on her face. Is that the one?
Yeah, she's got like horns.
Yeah. Okay, so that's I guess that's her basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I just want to see. Yeah, I want to see main characters. I want to see strong characters. I don't want to just see just generic. Because no joke, like watching it, the trailer, all the way the way I looked at a lot of these characters, like I guess you would call them like the non-white male. He looks like Bell Zettifar, right? You got that feel, the guy with like the dreads. Like, he looked like exactly like a like a mature Bell Zettifar, but it's not Bell from.
I know. I was kind of hoping too. He's the actor. He was in that Chicago Fire.
Okay.
That actor was in that show. I remember I recognized him. I was like, "Where's this guy from?" And I used to watch that garbage. But
yeah. Okay, you were such a what? Chicago Fire.
I know, dude. I don't know why I was watching it, but I don't know. Like, I also, of course, it'd be cool to see Yoda, and it would make sense to see Yoda. But I'm also, once again, at this point, a less is more kind of person, because so much of Marvel, so much of Star Wars, so much of everything I feel like is being like ruined by these. We gotta have cameos. We gotta have these big characters show up. And I think it does a disservice. I've said it a million times before. I think it does a disservice to the storyline, because it overshadows it. Like, hey, we're waiting for Luke to show up, or we're waiting for Thanos to show up in an end credit scene, and it steals away from the show. And I like this period of time because, well, I mean, I would be happy with any. This is an interesting period of time, right? Because we've had the High Republic in the comics, and we know a lot of those characters, like the Bell, the Vern, the Skier, all the Avar Chris, all those characters. We know them. Like, we have a feeling about them. This is past that, right? Like, we're getting Vern a little bit as older, and we're probably going to have Yoda. But other than that, there's no characters, and it's so much earlier that we don't have any of our legacy characters as well. So I like that it's a screenshot of like, boom, all new characters. Like, that was kind of what's cool about Andor. Of course, we had a little characters that were, Andor and Mon Mothma, but I don't know. I think Star Wars really needs to branch out and embrace the size of their universe and their ability to be like, hey, here's new characters. You will love these too. You don't need this crutch of an old character, a cameo, and these kind of things. So we'll see, man. I'm hoping for the same shit though, like with the Sith, right? Let's get into the Sith here.
Yeah.
So
we want to get back to that era because we really didn't have that in the sequel movies, and realistically, like what's going on in the current series. You had a great character with Baylan Skull, right? But that's not what we want. We want a real Sith user. We don't want a Jedi who is a fallen Jedi. I want to see a straight up Sith Lord.
I know. I mean, and honestly, the most we've ever had that was the prequel trilogy. The sequel trilogy, no, you got none. Return of Palpatine, but I don't know. Anyway, well, cool. Something to look forward to in the summertime. But anyway, well, let's round it out here with what we're reading these days. What do you got? You said you got a couple, right?
Yeah. So start off with some hot garbage, and I just can't believe DC puts out. I can't believe anybody who actually ordered more than, let's say, any store ordered more than 5 copies of this, and I can't imagine people actually wanting this in their collection. And realistically, reading it and keeping it in their collection was the April special. I don't know if you saw this.
It was vaguely, but I moved past it quickly.
Okay, so it's April special, but it's spelled APE-RIL. So it's all with like 8 related characters. So you get Detective Chimp, who you really don't ever see. You get the monkey from the Wonder Twins. You have, all different characters who are just, again, gorilla or monkey related. I read it. I just wanted to check it out because I think Detective Chimp is a cool character from like the whole Justice League Dark universe.
Yeah.
But my God, it was just so stupid. There's like, they create the Legion of like, I am not even going to do it. It's just like the Legion of Doom, but they're all baboon and gorilla characters.
Yeah.
And then there's like the impromptu JLA, like Just Us League of America, of America. It's just like, oh God, it was such a bad issue. But I just can't imagine someone actually. Thank God I read it online. I wanted to read it for the simple fact of Detective Chimp. So
no desire.
Yeah, no desire. I don't think anybody has a desire to buy it and to spend the money. I don't even know what cover price was. But moving forward, the Star Wars Visions. So we get a continuation of the Ronin. So this storyline involves the Ronin and the droid, and you kind of get to see realistically like how he found the droid, how he gets the droid, he fights another Sith, and just the whole Takashi Ozaki, just his art style is just amazing. Like it was great the last time around, just as great this time around for the Star Wars stuff. So definitely a nice little one shot, and I'm sure they'll continue with this character because it's one of the few characters from the Star Wars Visions that I felt like have a long history, who could have a long history going forward. Star Wars High Republic #5, another honorable mention. Just Skier, he is just a menace. here's a question for you, and what do you think on? Would you want to see the twins, Tarek and Sarah? You want to see one of the twins go bad?
I mean, it seems like it, right? Like it seems like I always like lose track of which one's which, but
Yeah, of course.
it seems like one of them, like when he throws that monkey or whatever that animal was, like it seems like one's going bad, and they're struggling with like their little mind link, like the way they feel, and they're not close. I mean, I think inevitably one has to. I think what you're going to see is not Sith related, which would be the cool aspect. I think what you're going to see is, I think one of them is going to defect to like the Nile or something like that. Something, or get too aggressive and get kind of banished,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the only
interesting.
logical story with that, with those.
Oh yeah, it's part because you can't keep them the way they are, and I don't think they're ever going to get back on the same page like they were in phase one. And then obviously this issue kind of fills in the gaps more with phase two characters. There's a reintroduction of another phase two character, which was interesting. Again, older version of that character, which I'm not going to spoil. Another cool issue was the Beneath the Trees issue number 4. I'm enjoying the series. Again, it's people went crazy for that number 1 just because it's like animals and murders and stuff like that. But I thought it was a great issue just for the simple fact is we're finally figuring out like who this other murderer is in the town, and you kind of get a background on why and what's happening with Sam, who's the main character, the bear. I'm enjoying that a lot. But pick of the week, Cobra Commander, man. Oh, dude, it's just such a great storyline. Yeah. Like I was over at Jeff Shop over in Philly at Fat Jack's, and he's like, dude, you just got to look at this. And I kind of didn't read it, but I did not see I'm not going to spoil it for people who haven't read it yet, but the character that's walking around with Cobra Commander did not see that coming at all. And just the way the Dreadnoughts just are absolutely just destroying him, like trying to beat down Cobra Commander.
Dude. It's wild.
Yeah. But in typical Cobra Commander fashion, he kind of turns people against each other, and it's just like the cartoon was. So yeah, definitely amazing. Cobra Commander this week was definitely pick of the week. So
nice.
What about you? What do you got reading?
So a couple from like last week as well. Last week, the Ghost Rider #1 Final Vengeance came out, which was really cool. Yep. Benjamin Percy again back on Ghost Rider, and we kind of knew it got spoiled that the Spirit of Vengeance was going to go to the Hood, which I'm okay with. I want to see how this plays out. I mean, obviously, inevitably, it's going to go back to Johnny at some point, but I thought it was pretty cool. I think it's an interesting character to get the Spirit of Vengeance. I liked that they brought back Zarathos, however you want to pronounce it, as like a more of an entity that's like sentient in this, and he like looking for a new host. I thought that was really cool. Carnage, always good. Always good. Side note, Torin was on Near Mint Conditions YouTube channel. I think it was this weekend, man. Omar had her on and was interviewing her. Dude, I could listen to Torin talk on like an interview anytime. She's wild, bro. Like she's just wild.
I'll check it out.
She's so funny, and like just the curse words that like just casually fly out. She's great. Yeah. So, shout out to Torin and obviously Omar and the Near Mint Condition crew over there on YouTube. Check them out. They have some good interviews, man, and good content. But what else? I really enjoyed Titans. I'm enjoying the Titans run. I've always been a big Titans fan, so it's hard for me to like not like Titans. I'm curious to see where it goes. Cobra Commander, I enjoyed.
I can't believe real quick before you skip over Titans. I can't believe how much of a character Amanda Waller has become over the past few years.
Yeah, and like a force.
Yeah, like a threat. Yeah. Like almost like a Lex Luthor threat, but you're not realizing how well it's being done.
Well,
what she's doing in the background.
This is a minor spoiler alert, I guess, but I remember reading this at the time, and I'm like, wait, Amanda's having a sit down with Trigon? Like what? Like no way, dude. It's just wild.
And she doesn't care, and she doesn't back down. Like he threatens her, and she's just like, why don't you think I've dealt with creatures across the the universe? How do you think I don't know how to stop you?
Yeah, and she goes, if you feel so confident, reach across this desk.
I was
like, what? She had that BDE dog on him, but So that was a good issue, man. Also really enjoyed X-Men Forever #1. It's kind of a tie-in, obviously, with the Fall of X, Rise of Powers of 10 stuff, kind of filling in some of the gap of the information that we're getting between those two titles. Before getting into kind of like my pick of the week, I guess, the hot garbage, dude. I can't read it, bro. I'm gonna finish it out because I've already bought 3 issues of it. But Star Wars Thrawn is bad.
Thrawn Alliances, yeah.
I just do. It's not good. It's not interesting. The story moves around too much. It's just back and forth with Thrawn and Vader in the past and the present. And there's literally in the past and in the present, there's nothing interesting occurring at all. I read like 4 pages of it, of the new issue 3, and I was like, nah, dude. And I just like scanned, and I'm not enjoying it at all.
Yeah, it's sad to see that because the Thrawn 1 to 6, the original the original like Marvel one, was done so well.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and 2 great characters, right? You'd think that there'd be a
course.
better storyline here with 2 like awesome villains in the Star Wars universe. And the thing that sucks about like little mini series like this, like when they do these bleed offs like the Star Wars Thrawn, it makes me not want to read. Like I'm not picking up Jango Fett at all, and I am.
That was actually pretty good. I actually like that. Yeah, that was very interesting. Yeah.
I'm reading Mace Windu. It's okay. There's a nostalgia. I think I said it last time. Is when you read it, I just hear Samuel L. Jackson's voice every time Mace talks in the. So that's
how I felt like with Django. I hear Tamora Morrison, and and he kind of, for the obviously one movie that we got at Django, you get that threat. He feels like a badass, like a badass bounty hunter, and and I guess that's a thing that you've read. We've both read Bounty Hunters, and it's always like that up and down. But Django does really have a presence, and maybe it was a good first issue.
I'll go back and read that. My pick of the week is going to be a tie, man. I think we talked about it. We got some early access, and we're able to read Rook Exodus. I had read like a couple pages of it from like the preview that I think came out in the Ghost Machine. Yeah. But the complete issue was great. And then also what's really good was Redcoat was awesome. And so was Geiger. So all big starts to the Ghost Machine universe, and just kind of like they have throughout every one of these issues, they've got like a timeline, and it tells you like they're working towards something. There's this whole like unknown war, and Geiger takes place after that. Redcoat and Rook Exodus are kind of like before it. I think I can't remember the timeline exactly, but they're working towards this big mystery, and it's very interesting, man. Actually, I don't think Rook Exodus is part of that stuff, but anyway, check it out. It's really, really cool. Redcoat was funny. I loved the way Jeff Johns wrote Redcoat. Like, did you read that one?
No, I haven't read any of those. It's on my list to read, and I'm unfortunately that I did not. But yeah,
dude,
you have to.
You'll love Redcoat. I mean, Jeff Johns is writing him hilarious. It's this time hopping kind of piece of shit. He's like thrown into situations, but he's like selfish, and he's not like a hero. And obviously, that's kind of where it's probably will go. But really cool stuff. I'm excited to see this whole universe kind of like play itself out. But those are definitely like my picks of the week: Geiger, Rook Exodus, and Redcoat. So that being said,
I have the Rook Exodus, and I haven't got a chance to read it.
Yeah, and the art, dude. Oh gosh,
I'm sure it's
amazing. Yeah. So keep an eye out for those as they come out. I can't remember off the top of my head what the release dates on those are. If you haven't talked to your LCSs about getting those issues, make sure you do pre-order that stuff. But yeah, that's what I got.
Awesome.
So that's it for us, I think, this week. Kind of wrapping up. Anything, Justin?
So I've been promoting it past couple weeks. Our buddy Scott Palachek will be at Lehigh Valley Comic-Con the second weekend in April 13th over in Allentown, PA. So make sure you go check him out. We have obviously King Kong is in 2 weeks. Got our buddy V. Ken Marion. I got to see Ken last weekend. He was doing an in-store signing over at Dewey's Comics here in Madison, New Jersey. So we got to talk for a little bit, literally just 45 minutes talking Final Fantasy. Like it was just It was like a deep dive into Final Fantasy, and then we were just getting into his Kickstarter that he's going to be launching soon. So, you'll see Ken at KingKon. He'll be with us. We got our setup as well. And KingKon's right around the corner. I'm pricing some stuff up as far as like slabs I'll be bringing. Hopefully, we'll have new T-shirts. Again, I keep teasing we'll be dropping a cover there. And then again, Terrificon, and then whatever else happens in between.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously the next big thing for the podcast is KingKon. So, KingKon, obviously April 6th, Saturday, April 6th up in Park Ridge, New Jersey. So
speaking of V. Ken Marion, yeah, his Kickstarter is Battle Chronicles Soul Striker Book 1. You can find that on Kickstarter. Search that Battle Chronicles Soul Striker, and you'll find that. Make sure you follow that because it will be launching soonish. I'm not sure. Did he tell you a date? I don't remember.
I think he said I think it's like it's going to be right after KingKon. So I think that second or third week it'll be.
Looks great, man. I love the stuff he's putting out. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, there's so much cool stuff from like just video game vibes to anime to just 90s comic feel.
So yeah, give that a follow over on Kickstarter. Keep an eye on that. And then, like Justin said, if you're in the area, come check us out at KingKon. We'll both be there with Ken as well, having a good time. And that's it. That's all we got. Episode 12. And
then next week we got 2 artists on. So we got some indie artists on here talking about another Kickstarter that's going on. So you'll see that for episode 13. So
cool.
And by episode 14, Zach will be in the East Coast.
I'll be in the East Coast, man. Totally different. Yeah. Cool.
Great stuff.
Thanks, everyone. We will catch you later. You know where you can find us on Instagram or anywhere, both Nemesis Prime, Milton the Manimal, or the KingKon podcast. Reach out if you got any questions, funny comments, stories, whatever.
Of course.
We will see you guys later.
Yep. Peace. And check out our sponsor on the way out, Sidekick Collectibles, everybody. Hey, comic book collectors. Do you want to protect what you collect? Do you hate when your comic books slide around in your short box, or you need to turn them sideways just so they don't bend or fall over? Well, look no further than Sidekick Supplies. Their product fits firmly inside your comic box, so you don't need to worry. And not only is their product made in the USA, but also ships free directly to your doorstep. Check out our sponsor, Sidekick Supplies, at sidekicksupplies.com and use the code KOMICON15 for 15% off your purchase. Believe me, you'll be ordering more than one.